Hi, I'm Olivia McPhail, and for Banned Book Week and this new media project, I decided to choose the novel Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I wanted to include that before writing this novel, William Golding was in World War II, and after he left, he expressed that his vision darkened and that he saw what men were capable of. And I think it's important because the story Lord of the Flies is dark and the characters become animalistic and violent, and so I think his experience really influenced the story. The book is about a plane crash that happens on an uninhabited island, and the only survivors are a group of boys in their early adolescence. One of the boys becomes the leader, and they set up ground rules. However, throughout the story, they become very chaotic, violent, and they don't follow the rules they originally had, and they become very savage. So, one of the main reasons that parents and schools challenge this book and that it was so controversial is because of its excessive violence and its profane language. In 1981, Owen High School, North Carolina, challenged the book due to its contents being, quote, demoralizing inasmuch as it implies that man is little more than an animal. I think that this reason for wanting to ban the book is a bit extreme because a lot of students have been exposed to violence in movies and TV shows, and if they're going to be exposed to it, I think that it's better to be through a book like this. And although that the situation is extreme and rare, there are a lot of moral lessons that are shown throughout the story that are important. It deals with morals and ethics and battling your struggles with wanting to do something, but also not doing something because it's bad. And it also deals with bullying. And so I think it's very important for students to read this book because it has a lot of underlying moral messages. And even over the fact that it has a lot of moral messages, the book is very good in terms of literature. It's a very good English book for students to read. It has a lot of symbolism, analogies, metaphors, and that's really important for an English class. And I don't think that the profanity and the graphic violence is enough for it to be banned. I understand if parents and schools wouldn't want elementary kids or middle school kids to read the book because I think that the moral lessons and the literature would not be understood by them. However, for high school students, especially juniors and seniors, I think it's a very important book, and they can learn a lot. And the New York Times posted an article about the book, and a few teachers actually wrote that this book was really helpful for their students in terms of literature. And even more than that, they related the book to students going to college and how when they go to college, they'll be on their own and they will have to make decisions. And a lot of the students said that it was a really good way to relate it to school and that they learned a lot from the book. So that's why I think it's really important. It was also challenged in 1992 in schools in Waterloo, Iowa, because of crude statements. And then in 1984, the Independent School District in Texas also challenged the novel on the grounds that it had excessive violence and bad language. So there were other schools that also challenged the book, but these were some of the main ones. But the main theme was graphic violence and profanity. So I'm going to read a passage from the book that is one of the more violent passages. It was controversial. Here, struck down by the heat, the sow fell, and the hunters hurled themselves at her. This dreadful eruption from an unknown world made her frantic. She squealed and bucked, and the air was full of heat, and noise and blood and terror. Roger ran around the heap, prodding with his spear whenever pigflesh appeared. Jack was on top of the sow, stabbing downward with his knife. Roger found a lodgment for his point and began to push till he was leaning with his whole weight. The spear moved forward inch by inch, and the terrified squealing became a high-pitched scream. Then Jack found the throat, and the hot blood spouted over his hands. The sew collapsed under them, and they were heavy and fulfilled upon her. The butterflies still danced, preoccupied in the center of the clearing. At last, the immediacy of the kill subsided. The boys drew back, and Jack stood up, holding out his hands. Look. So, it is a pretty violent passage. However, I don't think that it's too much for high schoolers, and I think that the pros definitely outweigh the cons of the book. I personally read this book my sophomore year of high school, and although there were some parts that disturbed me, I thought the book was very interesting, and that I learned a lot. So that's the book that I decided to choose, and also, a lot of the challenges of the book didn't actually lead it to becoming banned. Schools just had students have the option to choose another book. So, yeah.